Sadaşivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Bhadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dayakaram Dayakaram Dantam Dharma Pravartakam Pranamami Dayanandam Madacharya Paramparam. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurummilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are seeing the first chapter of Pañcadaśī, and in the text we had seen Vidyaranya, the author, talk about love. And in Sanskrit, the word love is very specific, prema. Parama prema is the highest form of love. There are different manifestations of the one love, but they cannot really be called parama prema. So we saw that this parama prema spadam is revealed as the nature of Atma, which is the real self, the nature of everyone and every name and form here that we see. And this Parama Prema Spadam, the object, Atma being the object of the highest love, it is Paramananda, Parananda. He said it is the highest happiness because love is happiness. And we had also seen that this Parananda is not fully recognized. It is limitless happiness, but it is not fully recognized in that I go searching for happiness in objects and situations and people in the external world. If it was fully recognized, we would not seek for happiness externally to ourselves. At the same time, there is a recognition, part recognition, because I have glimpses of that Ananda and I know that is what I want in my life. I have glimpses of my Swarupa, like reflections that arise. Suddenly that place self arises, and that is what I love to be. So I know that I love myself to some extent, but what self I really love, that is not known. The I am that shines through the mind, I am. We saw Sat and Chit. Amness is isness. So the amness, isness is with reference to the universe, amness is with reference to the individual. So I am, Sat Chit shines through my mind, but Sat Chit Ananda, Sat Chit equals Ananda, does not come to me in full. It is only partly experienced. So he used an example of the son's voice not being heard. A father goes to listen to his son's recital of Veda, and in the distinguishing voice of his son, the qualities of the son's voice are not able to be heard. Although the son is chanting along with the other boys, he is not able to discern the son's voice. Why? Because he says pratibandha, there is a obstacle to the recognition of what is already there. So he uses that as an example. So in the case of the chorus or the chanting, the many voices inhibit the full recognition of his son's voice. In the same way, Ananda is, or happiness is grasped in general. So in general I experience Ananda, but due to various obstructions, I am not able to, I'm not able to discover that full Ananda, that fullness, completeness, limitlessness, which is Ananda of my nature. Why? Because there are, there's some technical things here that the next few verses that are discussed actually, that Vidyadaranya brings up. So I will really unfold as much as I can in the English. But the inhibition of manifesting my happiness is due mainly to thought forms in my mind. And there are two categories of thoughts generally that stop consciousness from manifesting fully, from it being recognized. One is called Ghora Vritti. Ghora Vrittis are thought forms which are rajasic in nature. So we're going to examine these three gunas in creation. Very, next few verses is going to be unfolded. But rajas is the quality in the universe of action, of activity, of restlessness, of never being quiet and silent. That Ghora Vritti, it is just a name given for a type of thinking. Type of thinking, you can include desires are in Ghora Vritti. Any kind of thing that leads you, drives you to activity is called Ghora Vritti. Many vrittis we can examine in our mind like that. Anything that disturbs the equilibrium of the mind. Oh, I have to do this. Suddenly we get thought, right? I have to do this. I should have done this. Even when we are absorbing this knowledge in sitting in the class, sometimes we cannot help it. The Ghora Vritti arises, Rajas, did I switch off the gas? Did I do this? All of these things may come. That is called Ghora Vritti. That inhibits also consciousness manifestation being recognized. Ghora Vritti also includes anxieties, worries, desires, all of that is rajas manifestation. Then another type of vritti is tamasa vritti. This also inhibits the manifestation of consciousness. Tamasa is the quality in this universe that creates lethargy, indifference, apathy. So thoughts of depression, all of this is included in the tamasa vritti. Again, sometimes we are not able to manage these because prarabdha brings these vrittis without even our noticing. Suddenly, 1 minute I'm very bright, then what happens? This tamasa vritti takes over. I have no clue where it came from. So the states of minds are being constantly shifted due to these gunas that come into play. So these main obstructions for Atma nature to manifest are these type of thought forms. In verse 13, he goes further to say, Pratibandhosti bhatiti. Pratibandhosti bhatiti. vyavahara vastuni tam nirasya viruddhasya tasyotpadanamuchyate. All verse together. Pratibandhosti bhatiti vyavahara harvastuni tam nirasya viruddhasya tasyotpadanamuchyate. So, in an object of transactional reality, this is vyavahara harvastuni. In an object of transactional reality, what does he say? If there is an obstruction to the cognition, it exists, it shines, pratibandhosti bhatiti, then tam nirasya viruddhasya, removing that obstruction or that thing that comes in the way of knowledge of the object taking place is what is called the object coming into manifestation in my mind. The object coming into knowledge in my mind. Tasyotpadanam uchyate. So let's have a look at this. Na bhati. So na bhati means it doesn't shine. It doesn't shine for me. It is as though my eyes may be open, but I don't see it. Today I had an experience of that. I was looking for oat milk everywhere because mind was geared towards one particular packaging of oat milk. And I was looking for that particular packaging of oat milk. And I was looking everywhere and I could not find. Suddenly somebody came and said, oh, oat milk is right here in front of you. Obstruction is where? Obstruction is in not knowing it is in a different package. That is the obstruction here. Obstruction is avidya. In this particular case, avidya, in the case of Atma also avidya. Things can be right in front of us and we cannot grasp because of avidya. Very interesting. So he says, na bhati, the obstruction is there. Very good example. Sun, as I said, sunshine is obscured by the pratibandha of clouds. So clouds obscure. Right now, is the sun shining or not? We will say in our Vyavaharika transactional language, oh, there's no sun today. Is it really the reality? There is very much sunshine around us. Actually, even in Vyavahara, if we have that attitude, we can avoid, sad syndrome, everything, seasonal affective disorder, everything. Sun is always shining. Keep that in mind. It is only the obstructions that stop the sunlight from being seen. So here, it is partly known. Even with the sunlight, I know some light is there bringing all the objects to light. But if I don't know there is something like sun, I don't know the source of that light. It is the same here. I know happiness, but I don't know the source of happiness. So that makes me go after happiness in where it is not. That is the whole idea. Because I don't know the source, due to the obstruction of avidya, ignorance, then I look for that happiness everywhere, externally, where it is not. In fact, it is not there, but objects seem to trigger what is in me. But then I attribute it to the external world. So that is called transference projection. This is what we reduce more and more with Vedānta. So the pratibandha tam nirasya viruddhasya tasya utpadanam uchyate. So the us, there's a verse in Tattva-viveka which says asti bhati priyam rupam. Asti bhati priyam rupam. There are 5 aspects of this jagat, of the world. So 5 aspects. Asti, isness, existence. Bhati, it shines. Shines, when you say bhati, shines, it always means through a subtle body. Whenever we talk about consciousness manifesting, we have to bring in sukshma shariram, subtle body. Consciousness cannot manifest without a manifesting medium, or a reflecting medium. So there are many reflecting mediums for many objects in this world. Anything that expresses chetanatvam or sentiency is consciousness manifesting through that. It is not consciousness, as I said, consciousness, there's no such thing in Vedanta as inert. Consciousness is in and through everything. But when I say sentient, insentient, it is only, we have to understand in Vedantic language that there is a sukshma shariram for that object which manifests consciousness, and for the things we call inert, like rocks and things that don't show sentiency, there is no sukshma. But it does not mean there is no consciousness in that object. If this settee now, this sofa, would get sentiency, if it would get a sukshma shariram, what would it say? Get off me. What are you doing sitting on me? That is what sukshma shariram, manifest consciousness. Of course it would have to have a mouth, but it would have to have some expression of that. But this is what sentiency means. So that's why Vedanta says the highest manifestation of consciousness in the Jagat is the human being. Getting a human birth is not easy according to Shastra. And the highest manifestation, the least inhibited manifestation of consciousness is through a human mind. Because the human being has the ability to know itself. Other beings don't have that ability. We don't see, a cow doing self-inquiry in the field. At least we don't feel it is doing self-inquiry. It looks like it is busy eating. We don't see animals or plants inquiring into themselves. Because there's a level of self-consciousness. We can't say they're not conscious of the self. The more consciousness manifests through a thing, the more self-consciousness it has. It is conscious of itself in a way, because if you go towards a cow with a stick, it is going to run, right? That is called, it is self-conscious. It knows I need to protect myself. If you go with a handful of hay, grass, it will come closer to you. So there is self-consciousness in many things, but in a human being, it is the greatest manifestation because the human mind is able to know its source. So that is where he says, tam nirasya viruddhasya tasya utpadanam uchyate. Removing this opposing, this obstruction that is blocking the clarity, blocking the thing that is already there, that is called tasya utpadanam uchyate. That is what is known as bringing into manifestation. It is not really bringing into manifestation. It is called bringing into manifestation. Because all you do is remove the obstruction. Like now, the clouds are removed, then what? What is already shining is seen, right? It is not that it is created. So by doing karma, this is why it's very important. The sun is a great example for this. By doing any activity, can I remove anything? Can I remove ignorance by doing activities? By doing a lot of things in life practices, all of this, can I remove the obstruction of avidya, ignorance? I can only remove the avidya obstruction by bringing in its opposite. That's why we say all the practices, everything have their role in creating the infrastructure needed for avidya to go. And that avidya can only go through its opposite, which is atma-jnanam, knowledge. Self-knowledge alone is opposed to self-ignorance. That is the only way to remove it. So he says here that this ananda swarupa is always there, but the pratibandha makes that ananda swarupa as though not shining. And the avidya makes the jiva, the individual, take the limitless ananda, the one who is the form of limitless ananda, to be one with limited ananda. So I take myself to be a limited ananda. I experience little bits of happiness, but I am not that fullness I seek to be. So he goes on to say, Tasya hetu samanabhi.
Tasya hetu samanabhi.
Haraf putra dvani shrutau.
Haraf putra dvani shrutau.
Ihanadira vidyaiva.
Ihanadira vidyaiva.
Vyamohaikani bandhanam.
Vyamohaikani bandhanam.
Vyamohaikani bandhanam.
Vyamohaikani bandhanam.
Full verse.
Tasya hetu samanabhi. Haraf putra dvanishhrutau. Ihanadira vidyaiva. Vyamohaikani bandhanam.
So the cause of that non-recognition, tasya hetuhu. Now he goes back to the example, as when you cannot pick the sun's voice out in a crowd, putra dvani shrutau. Even though the sun is chanting, you can't pick him out in the crowd. It is masked by concurrent sounds. Samana biharaha. So concurrent sounds, that's also interesting. See, Atma is shining through every thought. With every thought that arises in the mind, consciousness comes along with the thought. But because of all the thoughts masking, I don't see that aspect of the thought. So it is always lighting up the mind, lighting up the thoughts, but the drishti or my vision is stuck in the thinking rather than the source of thinking. He says like that, concurrent sounds are there. They're all masking this one sound. Here, iha, it is beginningless ignorance alone. Anadihi vid anadir vid avidya eva. That is the single cause for the delusion of the human being. Single cause for the human being to take itself to be a limited creature, a limited individual. And vyamohaika nibandhanam. Because of that, then all the contrary experiences are there in the life of the human being. What are the contrary experiences? The human being takes itself to be sad. The human being takes itself to be unhappy. Human being takes itself to be all the things that it is not. That's why we resist those emotions. Why do we resist emotions? When people say, I have this emotion, why am I having this emotion? I should not have this emotion. You can't say why. It just comes because of, again, avidya. The root cause is avidya and wrong identification. That's what he says here. But there is no problem for having the emotions we have. As long as ignorance is there, there will be these contrary experiences we cannot avoid. The only thing we can do is to manage those appearances of those emotions while we are immersed in this understanding of the truth of ourselves. Sometimes it seems very contradictory because the texts are telling you your limitless ananda, your limitless joy, your nature. But then my mind is experiencing what? Limitless sadness, limitless unhappiness. There is a resistance on this level, and it seems a very contradictory experience. This is where we have to be very gentle with ourselves. The mind has the nature of shifting states. That is the nature of the mind. So first thing we accept with our mind is that the moods do shift. Swamiji Vedānta used to say, it is not the mind that has moods, mood is mind. So mood is mind means that it keeps changing all the time. This is everyone's mind. No mind can stay the same always. So 1 minute it can be in a very good state, next minute due to, again, gunas, when you understand the gunas, it can be in a different state, another time it can be in a totally different state. I don't control this, or I think I don't control, but I do have some level of control over the states of mind. How can I manage my mind? First of all, diet. Even though it sounds very, very basic, the subtle part of food goes to form your thoughts. So diet is also an important aspect of managing our thoughts, because this constant change of mind comes also when we are not conscious of, what type of foods we eat. You have to see each body is different. There is a generic health guideline. We know that, too many carbohydrates not good, fried food is not good. But there are people who live only on fried foods all their lives and they survive till 95. Or what? I know some people who survived. One lady, she smoked 40 cigarettes a day and she lived till 95. So it is not, it's a general guideline. We don't know. Generally we find, if you smoke a lot, you're susceptible to lung disease. If you eat, all these fried fatty foods, cholesterol, all of this is a problem. And also, mind, when you have more fresh, you'll see more fresh items. You can see in this place, all of the food is grown here on this land. It is organic, it is fresh, and that is conducive even for our thoughts. Many people tell me here that they're feeling very peaceful, very, relaxed. All of this has got to do with the atmosphere, also the food that is taken. So number one way we can manage that is through even food, through practices, japa, prayer, all of these help the mind to manage, help us to manage that mind which is always shifting, changing. So nothing wrong with having emotions. Even in our texts we have Lord Rama expressed so much emotion. Krishna, we are emotional beings. So there is some thinking sometimes I find, that emotions I should not have this way. No, you are the way you are. If you feel like crying, cry. Why should I suppress? No, what will other people think? No, this is where I have to understand the nature of the mind is like this. But it is again the covering of my true nature. This contradiction comes because our Vedānta is saying one thing and the mind is doing something else. That's where when I have to refine the mind, when I refine the mind, grow in sattvic quality, you will understand what Vedānta is talking about. But first level, we have to grow in sattva. So he says here, the contradictory experiences are due to the pratibandhas. The pratibandhas are the thoughts that take me away from my true nature. That's why I don't like them. Whenever I reject certain emotions or thoughts, it is because it covers my true nature. It is like me trying to get rid of the clouds. I'm trying with my hand. I want to see the sun. I want to see the sun. I want to get rid of the clouds. Does it work? Will it ever work? It won't, because clouds are as though as well. As soon as you put your hand in a cloud, you realize there's no such thing as cloud. Avidya is just like that. It is as though. Avidya actually, eventually you will see, when you see the sun, there is no such thing as avidya. It is like that. Whole life we're trying to what? Trying to remove something, it cannot be removed. So what is the best way to deal with those pratibandhas of thoughts, clouds? Here Shastra says, don't resist them. When they come, this is something which is very new to people in Vedanta, because new to people generally who are on the spiritual pursuit, because in many places, there's a lot of complex developed because you can't be like this, you have to be like this, you have to, if you're a spiritual person, you have to have these values, you have to show this front, all of this extra pressure on the human being. Here Vedanta comes and tells you what? Everything about you is okay, but you have to simply observe the clouds. They will come. There is no no guarantee clouds will not come at some point in life. They will come for everybody. But the trick is not getting rid of the clouds, not to resist the clouds of this thinking. It is to simply observe. And when at one moment the clouds, do they stay forever in the same place? Has anything, especially Sweden teaches us, has the weather stayed the same today at all? 1 minute sun, 1 minute like this. And if I'm changing along with the weather, I'll be in trouble. But that's what we do. We change along with the weather, right? When I watch, simply observe. No, they're not. They're going to come and go. This is the trick. Anitya means everything in the world is anitya, including your own mind. When I understand that as a fact, it is assimilated, then I will let the thoughts, these clouds of thoughts, just come and go. I need not grab onto them, analyze them to death. I don't need to do any of that. I just need to observe, yes, sadness is there. Okay, it's going to pass. Jealousy is there. Okay, it's going to pass. That is the practice. More and more, the observation of thoughts stops giving the thoughts the power they don't deserve. When you observe your thoughts, you're not grabbing onto them. When you constantly working on the thoughts, you're trying to hold on to them actually. So this is something to know. So he says here, this iha nibandhanam eka nibandhanam, the primary cause, vyamoha, is wrong perception of oneself, wrong understanding of oneself. Because I take myself to be what I am not. So I have to find now a way to reverse the thinking I have of myself. That is what Vedānta does. It is actually notion reversal. I have these erroneous notions surrounding the I. Those notions, through Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, they get eroded, they get removed slowly. You suddenly see the sunshine of Atma, which is always there, shining, and you recognize what? That sunshine even lights up the clouds of ignorance. That sunshine lights up your thoughts of sadness, of depression, of anger, of joy, of pain, of peace. The thoughts are lit up by the sunshine of Atma. So this is what he says here. Pratibandha is not a physical covering. The pratibandha is not like the koshas. It is errors you commit, that I. We saw this as well in the Pañcakosha Prakriya, the 5-sheath model. It is only a teaching. It's only for teaching. So on the level of error of the physical body, I identify with the body. That's the first level of error. It is not a physical covering that covers Atma. Physical body doesn't cover Atma. Atma pervades this physical body, every other physical body. It is the thought that I am the physical body which makes the physical body a cover, as though cover for Atma. So it is nothing here. These pratibandhas, obstructions, are nothing physical here. It is just erroneous thinking about myself and misidentity, wrong identity. I don't know myself as I am. So, avidya, the main pratibandha for knowledge is avidya. And every other symptom, because of avidya, which is the root cause, every other symptom starts showing up. Number one symptom, because of avidya, what is it? It is desire that arises to be full. That is a symptom of self-ignorance. I'm not feeling full, then I want to be full. So desire, as we saw before, avidya, Shankaracharya beautifully says, self-ignorance leads to desire to be complete, desire to be full. That fullness, completeness, search for that leads to karma. Karma leads to desire for results of activity. The desire for results of your activity leads to further births. This is the cycle that we talked about before. So this is what he discussed in the past few verses here, avidya. Let us go and see the next verse. So, in the vision of Shastra, there is no real problem. Now he goes on to a different topic. Different topic meaning it's a beautiful flow, but he's going to now introduce samsara as a topic. What is the cause for samsara? Now we've seen that the avidya is a pratibandha, it is an obstruction to my recognition of myself. But what causes the avidya? How does it come into existence? How is it that in my transaction I cannot understand my true self? So here the Jagat is brought in now, the universe, because the world, because that is what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. It is always I facing this world and facing others. This is where we have most of the issues. So, Shastra, actually Vedanta brings in a temporary world. It is a temporary world, a temporary creation, because ultimately creation itself doesn't exist. If there's only one, how can there be this creation and Ishvara separate from creation, or even Ishvara and Jiva separate? In the first instance, to help with the inquiry, a temporary creation is brought in. Ishvara, temporary Ishvara also brought in, because Ishvara and Jiva are not separate. Temporary Jiva is brought in because of identification. So in the beginning we begin with Lord, the world and the individual. This is what we know in the moment. We know these three things, the individual, the Jagat and Ishvara. But ultimately what happens, everything becomes seen in the oneness that it is. Ishvaratvam, the status given to Ishvara is dissolved in knowledge. The status given to the individual is dissolved. And the status given to the Jagat is also dissolved into the one truth. So from here now, 15th verse onwards, samsara is described and how avidya, this root cause, self-ignorance, leads to this life of becoming. Whenever we see this word samsara, we understand it as a life of becoming. Becoming what? Becoming something else. Becoming something different to what I am right now. Again, manifestation of symptom. Nobody addresses the root problem. Everybody goes to address symptoms. Wherever you go, symptoms are being addressed. So when it is, you will read in spiritual literature at times also, get rid of desires. Remove desires. Can we really get rid of desires like that? Get rid of desires. No, sit and be. That's another thing that we see. Sit and be, don't do anything. Why? Oh, you should not have desires. You are just being. You're not. No. Because how can we sit and not do anything? Again, because of not properly unfolding, people get the wrong idea. I know one Neo-Vedantin, he was very nice person, but because he was listening to a lot of this way of unfoldment, often I'm just sitting and being, and he used to have a cigarette and a beer in his hand. I'm sitting and being. I said, but you're not doing anything, and that's not really what it's meant by being. Just doing what you want and just sitting without activity is not what is called being, but sometimes that's misunderstood as being. No, being is a state of the self. Being is yourself. It is not something that you practice. I'm practicing to be, So all of this misunderstandings in the spiritual field, and desire reduction is the worst thing, the pressure that people are put under. Get rid of your desires. My God, if we can really get rid of our desires, it'll be a miracle. Soon as we get rid of one desire, what happens? Another one is already there, clamoring to come up. There's no way of removing desire. And there's more pressure, because when you hear, people talk, in our field, as sannyasis, or we hear a lot of people talk about a lot of things. So we meet people from all different also backgrounds, and many people have got this huge pressure. I'm not able to control my desires. Swamini, I'm not able to control desires. What do I do? I say, hey, you're not meant to control your desires. Who said you have to control your desires? No Vedanta text talks about desire control. This is the whole problem. We have a lot of wrong understanding, misunderstanding, which actually creates more problems for us that we have to address, through the teaching, because people come from those backgrounds. Let's be very clear, we cannot eradicate desire. No one can eradicate desire. Even for a jnani, a wise person, desire may arise. It may arise for helping others. Loka sangrahartham. Usually the desires of a wise person will be for the sake of society. It is, Swamiji used to say, a desire of a wise person is out of fullness, not for fullness. An otherwise person will go after things for fullness. So here we have to understand we cannot get rid of desire because the root issue is not addressed. Self-ignorance still remains. As long as self-ignorance remains, desire will keep popping up because you don't feel complete. The thought comes, if I do this, I feel satisfied. If I do this, I'll feel whole. If I do this, I'll be happy. But let us see in our life, and maybe I can have a show of hands, has anybody satisfied one desire that has left them fully satisfied, fully feeling whole, complete? Anybody in the room? I didn't think so. Because what happens? The next one is already there to be fulfilled. But the mind, watch the mind. The mind says to you, if I do this, I will feel complete, I will feel whole. If that is the case with any desire, if when I fulfill it, when I have made the efforts, put in all the effort to fulfill the desire, I should be able to just sit quietly with myself and go, finally, I have it. I'm fully content, I'm satisfied, I don't need to go after anything anymore. But we don't do that because desire has the nature of multiplying. When you fulfill more and more, you want something else, it will keep increasing. So the only way of practicing this managing is manage desire, but not controlling it, not getting rid of it. We can only manage our desires. Desire management requires some effort. So I don't allow my desires to, lead me into all different avenues in life. I'm able to manage. Manage means my buddhi kicks in and says, is this worth getting? No, my mind is telling me, I'll be satisfied if I get this. But is it really worth it? You have to analyze. And by yourself doing some certain vichara, inquiry, you may be able to, Krishna says, like a smoke, you're able to blow that desire out of your mind. Very simple. Some desires are very simple. You can just, gone. Little fancies. Okay, that's fine. But other desires are more like cleaning a dirty mirror. So you have to take a bit longer to manage those desires. You're not getting rid of desires, but if you inquire into the desire, what it's going to get you, what it's going to give you, by itself it may just dissolve. So some require a bit more cleaning. He says, like a mirror with dirt on it, you keep cleaning it, then that desire also you can manage. But the third type of desire he mentions is like a fetus in a womb. Fetus in a womb is like the mother is carrying heavily pregnant mother, waddling around, carrying that. It is very uncomfortable. Like some desires, we keep carrying, we can't get rid of them. We can't, even with some cleaning, they keep coming back. The thought keeps coming back. So what do I do? So some desires, we may have to give birth to them before they're resolved. The birth itself is painful. We have to give birth to our desire, go through the experience, then you come, see the limitation. Was that it? Is that all? But the mind sometimes has very strong desire, and Krishna says there is a type of desire we may have that is, unless I live through it, I cannot suppress it. So this is samsara, what he is going to discuss in the next verse. We can chant it, and then maybe in the afternoon we'll see more. Chidanandamaya Brahma,
Chidanandamaya Brahma,
Pratibimba Samanvita,
Pratibimba Samambita,
Tamo Rajas Sattva Guna,
Tamo Rajas Sattva Guna,
Prakritir Dvividha Chasa.
Prakritir Dvividha Chasa.
Whole verse together.
Chidanandamaya Brahma, Pratibimba Samanvita, Tamo Rajas Sattva Guna, Prakritir Dvividha Chasa.
So next few verses, very nice, beautiful verses, unfolding Ishvara and the Jiva and the cause for samsara. What is the difference between Ishvara and Jiva? He highlights here, and what is it that causes this avidya? Avidya is beginningless, but what is it that causes this ignorance of myself? It seems so obvious, but why are we not able to see it? So he's going to explain. Next few verses we'll see in the afternoon. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.